Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books. As the world gears up, perhaps, for another surge of the coronavirus and the world's population resists having to go into lockdown again, we're just beginning. Just on the Ädi-lilä of the Caitanya-caritämrta, and we have lots of nectar. As Srila Prabhupada once told us, you have enough books to last you for a few lifetimes. It's our duty to not just to read these books, but to assimilate them and reform our characters according to the instructions and examples given in them, and then to give that nectar of Lord Chaitanya's association through his devotees to the world. Prabhupada once told us, and we didn't understand it at the time, but he said, history will tell how the Krishna consciousness movement saved the world in its darkest hour. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur poetically explained why this is possible. He said, in due course, Mahapralaya, devastating floods, will inundate the entire universe, not just this earth. If you attempt to survive by swimming in that deluge, then do not neglect to take hold of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Sri Caitanya-caritämrta. Or, if you cannot hold all three, then release Bhagavad Gita. If necessary, you may also relinquish Srimad Bhagavatam, but under no circumstances release your hold on Sri Caitanya-caritämrta. For if this one book remains, then the flood can do no actual damage, because after it is subsided, the message of Shastra can be revived from Sri Caitanya-caritämrta alone, it being the essence of all Shastra. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhaktavinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhaktavinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktavinda. Okay, we've reached the Ädi-lilä, chapter 7, text 159. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has successfully delivered the Mayavadi sannyasis of Varanasi, and they are now all dancing and chanting in ecstasy. And he stays in Varanasi a little longer in order to deliver Sanatana Goswami all the instructions that he gave him. So here we are, still living in Varanasi. Text 159. Whenever the crowds were too great, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stood up, raised his hands, and chanted, Hari, Hari, to which all the people responded, filling both the land and sky with the vibration. Text 160. After thus delivering the people in general, the Lord desired to leave Varanasi. After instructing Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, after instructing Sri Sanatana Goswami, he sent him toward Vrindavan. And we will hear in the Madhya-lila a detailed account of those instructions that form quite a few chapters of the Madhya-lila. Purport. The actual purpose of Lord Chaitanya's stay at Varanasi after coming back from Vrindavan was to meet Sanatana Goswami and teach him. Sanatana Goswami met Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu after the Lord's return to Varanasi, where the Lord taught him for 2 months about the intricacies of Vaishnava philosophy and Vaishnava activities. After completely instructing him, the Lord sent him to Vrindavan to execute his orders. When Sanatana Goswami went to Vrindavan, there were no temples. The city was lying vacant like an open field. Sanatana Goswami sat down on the bank of the Yamuna, and after some time he gradually constructed the first temple. Then other temples were constructed, and now the city is full of temples, numbering about 5,000. Text 161. Because the city of Varanasi was always full of tumultuous crowds, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, after sending Sanatan to Vrindavan, returned to Jagannath Puri. Text 162. I have given here a brief account of these pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, but later I shall describe them in an extensive way. 163. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates of the Panchatattva distributed the holy name of the Lord to invoke love of Godhead throughout the entire universe, and thus the entire universe was thankful. Purport. Here it is said that Lord Chaitanya made the entire universe thankful to him for propagating the Sankirtan movement with his associates. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has already sanctified the entire universe by his presence 500 years ago, and therefore anyone who attempts to serve Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sincerely by following in his footsteps and following the instructions of the Acharyas will successfully be able to preach the holy names of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra all over the universe. There are some foolish critics who say that Europeans and Americans cannot be offered sannyas, but here we find that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to preach the Sankirtan movement all over the universe. For preaching work, sannyasis are essential. These critics think that only Indians or Hindus should be offered sannyas to preach, but their knowledge is practically nil. Without sannyasis, the preaching work will be impeded. Therefore, under the instruction of Lord Chaitanya and with the blessings of his associates, there should be no discrimination in this matter, but people in all parts of the world should be trained to preach and given sannyas, so that the cult of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan movement will expand boundlessly. We do not care about the criticism of fools. We shall go on with our work and simply depend on the blessings of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates, the Pancha Tattva. Text 164. Lord Chaitanya dispatched the 2 generals, Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, to Vrindavan to preach the Bhakti cult. Purport. When Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami went to Vrindavan, there was not a single temple, but by their preaching they were gradually able to construct various temples. Sanatana Goswami constructed the Madan Mohan temple, and Rupa Goswami constructed the Govindaji temple. Similarly, their nephew, Jiva Goswami, constructed the Radha Damodar temple. Shri Gopal Bhatta Goswami constructed the Radha Raman temple. Shri Lokanath Goswami constructed the Gokulananda temple, and Shyamananda Goswami constructed the Shyamasundar temple. In this way, many temples were gradually constructed. For preaching, construction of temples is also necessary. The Goswamis not only engaged in writing books, but also constructing temples because both are needed for preaching work. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted his cult of his Sankirtan movement to spread all over the world. Now that the International Society for Krishna Consciousness has taken up this task of preaching the cult of Lord Chaitanya, its members should not only construct temples in every town and village of the globe, but also distribute the books that have already been written and further increase the number of books. Both distribution of books and construction of temples must continue side by side in parallel lines. Text 165. As Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami were sent toward Mathura, so Nityananda Prabhu was sent to Bengal to preach extensively the cult of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Purport. The name of Lord Nityananda is very famous in Bengal. Of course, anyone who knows Lord Nityananda knows Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also. But there are some misguided devotees who stress the importance of Lord Nityananda more than that of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is not good, nor should Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu be stressed more than Lord Nityananda. The author of the Caitanya-caritämrta, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, left his home because of his brothers stressing the importance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu over that of Nityananda Prabhu. Actually, one should offer respect to the Panchatattva without such foolish discrimination, not considering Nityananda Prabhu to be greater, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to be greater, or Advaita Prabhu to be greater. The respect should be offered equally. Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktarinda. All devotees of Lord Chaitanya or Nityananda are worshipable persons. Shall I repeat that? Don't mind? All devotees of Lord Chaitanya or Nityananda are worshipable persons. Text 166. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally went to South India and he broadcast the holy name of Lord Krishna in every town and village. 167. Thus the Lord went to the southernmost tip of the Indian peninsula known as Setubanda, Cape Comorin. Everywhere he distributed the bhakti cult and love of Krishna, and in this way he delivered everyone. 168. I have thus explained the truth of the Panchatattva. One who hears this explanation increases in knowledge of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Purport. The Panchatattva is a very important factor in understanding Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There are sahajas who, not knowing the importance of the Panchatattva, concoct their own slogans, such as Bhajanitai Gora, Radhe Sham, Japa Hari Krishna Hari Ram, or Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Hari Krishna Hari Rama, Sri Radhe Govinda. Such chants may be very good poetry, but they cannot help us to go forward in devotional service. In such chants there are also many discrepancies, which need not be discussed here. Strictly speaking, when chanting the names of the Panchatattva, one should fully offer his obeisances. Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktarinda. By such chanting, one is blessed with the competency to chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra without offense. When chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, one should also chant it fully. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. One should not foolishly adopt any of these slogans concocted by imaginative devotees. If one actually wants to derive the effects of chanting, one must strictly follow the great acharyas. This is confirmed in the Mahabharata. Mahajano Yinigata Sapanta. The real path of progress is that which is traversed by great acharyas and authorities. Excuse me. 169. While chanting the Panchatattva Mahamantra, one must chant the names of Sri Chaitanya, Nityananda, Advaita, Gadadhar, and Srivas with their many devotees. This is the process. 170. I again and again offer obeisances under the Panchatattva. Thus I think that I will be able to describe something about the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. 171. Praying at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Sri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I, Krishna Das, narrate Sri Caitanya-caritämrta, following in their footsteps. Purport. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to preach the Sankirtan movement of love of Krishna throughout the entire world. And therefore, during his presence, he inspired the Sankirtan movement. Specifically, he sent Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami to Vrindavan and Nityananda to Bengal, and personally went to South India. In this way, he kindly left the task of preaching his cult in the rest of the world to the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. The members of this society must always remember that if they stick to the regulative principles and preach sincerely according to the instructions of the acharyas, surely they will have the profound blessings of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and their preaching work will be successful everywhere throughout the world. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to Sri Caitanya-caritämrta, Ädi-lilä, 7th chapter, describing Lord Chaitanya in 5 features. Jai! Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai! Sri Nityananda Prabhu ki jai! Sri Advaita Acharya ki jai! Sri Vasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai! Sri Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami ki jai! Sri Caitanya-caritämrta ki jai! Gaur Premanandi! Hari Haribo! Well, that's one of the longer chapters. It especially had a lot of long purports and deep philosophical discussions. So now it's time to move on. We've heard the glories of the spiritual master, spiritual masters. We've heard the glories of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all the different reasons that he came to this world, both external and internal. We've heard the glories of Nityananda Prabhu, the glories of Advaita Acharya, and finally the glories of the Panchatattva, and just how deep Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's potency was that he could deliver all the Mayavadi sannyasis in Varanasi. Now we're moving on. Chapter 8. The author receives the orders of Krishna and Guru. The 8th chapter of Sri Caitanya-caritämrta is summarized by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Amrita Prabha Bhasha. In this chapter, the glories of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda are described. And it is also stated that one who commits offenses in chanting the Hare Krishna mantra does not achieve love of Godhead, even after chanting for many years. In this connection, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur warns against artificial displays of the bodily symptoms called Ashta Sattvika Vikar. That is also an offense. One should seriously and sincerely continue to chant the Panchatattva names, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. All these acharyas will bestow their causeless mercy upon a devotee and gradually purify his heart. When he is actually purified, automatically he will experience ecstasy in chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Previous to the composition of Sri Caitanya-caritämrta, Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur wrote a book called Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat. Only those subjects which were not discussed by Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur in his Chaitanya Bhagavat have been taken up by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami to be depicted in Sri Caitanya-caritämrta. In his very old age, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami went to Vrindavan, and by the order of Sri Madan Mohanji, he wrote Sri Caitanya-caritämrta. Thus we are now able to relish its transcendental bliss. Text 1. Vande Chaitanya Devam Tang Bhagavantam Yadich Chaya Prasabam Nartyate Chitram Leka Range Jadopyaham. I offer my respects to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, by whose desire I have become like a dancing dog and suddenly taken to the writing of Sri Caitanya-caritämrta, although I am a fool. 2. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is known as Gaurasundar. I also offer my respectful obeisances unto Nityananda Prabhu, who was always very joyful. Text 3. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto Advaita Acharya, who was very merciful, and also to that great personality, Gadadhar Pandit, the learned scholar. Text 4. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto Srivas Thakur and all the other devotees of the Lord. I fall down to offer them respect. I worship their lotus feet. Purport. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami teaches us first to offer respect to the Panchatattva, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, Advaita Prabhu, Gadadhar Prabhu, and Srivas Prabhu, and other devotees. We must strictly follow the principle of offering our respects to the Panchatattva, as summarized in the mantra, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara, Shivasadi Gaura, Bhakta Vrinda. At the beginning of every function in preaching, especially before chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, we must chant the Panchatattva's names and offer our respects to them. Text 5. By remembering the lotus feet of the Panchatattva, a dumb man can become a poet, a lame man can cross mountains, and a blind man can see the stars in the sky. Purport. In Vaishnava philosophy, there are 3 ways for perfection, namely, sadhana siddha, perfection attained by executing devotional service according to the rules and regulations; nitya siddha, eternal perfection attained by never forgetting Krishna at any time; and kripa siddha, perfection attained by the mercy of the spiritual master or another Vaishnava. Kaviraj Goswami here stresses kripa siddha, perfection by the mercy of superior authorities. This mercy does not depend on the qualifications of a devotee. By such mercy, even if a devotee is dumb, he can speak or write to glorify the Lord splendidly. Even if lame, he can cross mountains, and even if blind, he can see the stars in the sky. Text 6. The education cultivated by so-called learned scholars who do not believe these statements of Sri Caitanya-caritämrta is like the tumultuous croaking of frogs. Purport. The croaking of the frogs in the rainy season resounds very loudly in the forest, with the result that snakes, hearing the croaking in the darkness, approach the frogs and swallow them. Similarly, the so-called educational vibrations of the tongues of university professors who do not have spiritual knowledge is like that of the croaking of frogs. Text 7. One who does not accept the glories of the Panchatattva, but still makes a show of devotional service to Krishna, can never achieve the mercy of Krishna or advance to the ultimate goal. Purport. If one is seriously interested in Krishna conscious activities, he must be ready to follow the rules and regulations laid down by the acharyas, and he must understand their conclusions. The Shastra says, Dharmasya tattvam nihitam guhayam mahajano yenagatak sapanta. Mahabharata, Vanaparva 3:13 to 117. It is very difficult to understand the secret of Krishna consciousness, but one who advances by the instruction of the previous acharyas and follows in the footsteps of his predecessors in the line of disciplic succession will have success. Others will not. Srila Narottam Das Thakur says in this connection, Chadiya Vaishnava Seva, Chadiya Vaishnava Seva, Nistara Payet Chekeba. Unless one serves the spiritual master and acharyas, one cannot be liberated. Elsewhere he says, Echai Goshai Yanra Mui Tanradas, Tan Sabara Pada Renu, Mora Panchagras. I simply accept a person who follows in the footsteps of the 6 Goswamis, and the dust of such a person's lotus feet is my food. Text 8. Formerly, kings like Jarasandha, the father-in-law of Kamsa, strictly followed the Vedic rituals, thus worshipping Lord Vishnu. Purport. In these verses, the author of Sri Caitanya-caritämrta, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, is very seriously stressing the importance of worship of the Panchatattva. If one becomes a devotee of Lord Gaurasundar or Krishna, but does not give importance to the Panchatattva, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhar, Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavrinda, his activities are considered to be offenses, or in the words of Srila Rupa Goswami, utpata, disturbances. One must therefore be ready to offer due respect to the Panchatattva before becoming a devotee of Lord Gaurasundar or of Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text 9. One who does not accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead is certainly a demon. Shall I repeat that? Just in case anybody thinks that we're fanatics when we say this. One who does not accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead is certainly a demon. Similarly, anyone who does not accept Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Krishna, the same Supreme Lord, is also to be considered a demon. Purport. Formerly there were kings like Jarasandha who strictly followed the Vedic rituals, acted as charitable, competent Kshatriyas, possessed all Kshatriya qualities, and were even obedient to the Brahminical culture, but who did not accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Jarasandha attacked Krishna many times, and each time, of course, he was defeated. Like Jarasandha, any man who performs Vedic rituals but does not accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead must be considered an asura, or demon. Similarly, one who does not accept Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Krishna himself is also a demon. This is the conclusion of authorized scriptures. Therefore, both so-called devotion to Gaurasundar without devotional service to Krishna and so-called Krishna Bhakti without devotional service to Gaurasundar are non-devotional activities. If one wants to be successful on the path of Krishna consciousness, he must be thoroughly conscious of the personality of Gaurasundar as well as the personality of Krishna. Knowing the personality of Gaurasundar means knowing the personalities of Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhar, Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. The author of Sri Caitanya-caritämrta, pursuant to the authorities, stresses this principle for perfection in Krishna consciousness. Text 10. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu thought, "Unless people accept me, they will all be destroyed." Thus the merciful Lord accepted the sannyas order. Purport. In Srimad Bhagavatam 12:3-51, it is said, Kirtanad eva Krishnasya mukta sangha param brajet. Simply by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra or Lord Krishna's name, one is liberated and goes back home, back to Godhead. This Krishna consciousness must be achieved through the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. One cannot be complete in Krishna consciousness unless he accepts Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates as the only means for success. It is because of these considerations that the Lord accepted sannyas, for thus people would offer him respect and very quickly come to the platform of Krishna consciousness. Since Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Krishna himself, inaugurated the Krishna consciousness movement, without his mercy, one cannot be elevated to the transcendental platform of Krishna consciousness. Text 11. If a person offers obeisances to me, even due to accepting me only as an ordinary sannyasi, his material distresses will diminish, and he will ultimately get liberation. Purport. Krishna is so merciful that he always thinks of how to liberate the conditioned souls from the material platform. It is for this reason that Krishna incarnates, as clearly indicated in the Bhagavad Gita 4:7. Yada hida hi dharmasya glanhir bhavati bharata abhyutanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham. Whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice, O descendant of Bharat, and a predominant rise of irreligion, at that time I descend myself. Krishna always protects the living entities in many ways. He comes himself, he sends his own confidential devotees, and he leaves behind him shastras like the Bhagavad Gita. Why? It is so that people may take advantage of the benediction to be liberated from the clutches of Maya. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted sannyas so that even a foolish person who accepted him as an ordinary sannyasi would offer him respect, for this would help diminish his material distresses and ultimately liberate him from the material clutches. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati points out in this connection that Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the combined form of Sri Radha and Krishna. Mahaprabhu Sri Chaitanya, Radha Krishna, nahi anya. Therefore, when fools considered Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to be an ordinary human being, and thus treated him disrespectfully, the merciful Lord, in order to deliver these offenders, accepted sannyas, so that they would offer him obeisances, accepting him as a sannyasi. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted sannyas to bestow his great mercy on people in general, who cannot appreciate him as Radha and Krishna themselves. Text 12. One who does not show respect unto this merciful Lord, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, or does not worship him, should be considered a demon, even if he is very much exalted in human society. Purport. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj says in this connection, O living entities, simply engage yourselves in Krishna consciousness. This is the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Lord Chaitanya preached this cult, instructing the philosophy of Krishna consciousness in his 8 verses, or Shikshastaka, and he said, Iha hoite sarva siddhi hoibe sabhar. By chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, one will get all perfection in life. Therefore, one who does not show him respect or cannot appreciate his mercy despite all these merciful gestures is an asura, or opponent of bona fide devotional service to Lord Vishnu, even though he may be very much exalted in human society. The word asura refers to one who is against devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu. It should be noted that unless one worships Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it is useless to become a devotee of Krishna, and unless one worships Krishna, it is also useless to become a devotee of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Such devotional service is to be understood to be a product of Kali Yuga. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur remarks in this connection that atheist smartas, or worshippers of the 5 kinds of demigods, worship Lord Vishnu for a little satisfaction in material success, but have no respect for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Thinking him to be one of the ordinary living entities, they discriminate between Gaurasundar and Sri Krishna. Such understanding is also demoniac and is against the conclusion of the Acharyas. Such a conclusion is a product of Kali Yuga. 13. Therefore I say again, lifting my arms, O fellow human beings, please worship Sri Chaitanya and Nityananda without false arguments. Purport. Because a person who performs Krishna Bhakti but does not understand Sri Krishna Chaitanya and Prabhu Nityananda will simply waste his time, the author, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, requests everyone to take to the worship of Sri Chaitanya and Nityananda Prabhu and the Panchatattva. He assures everyone that any person who does so will be successful in Krishna consciousness. Text 14. Logicians say, unless one gains understanding through logic and argument, how can one decide upon a worshipable deity? 15. If you are indeed interested in logic and argument, kindly apply it to the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. If you do so, you will find it to be strikingly wonderful. Purport. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur comments in this connection that people in general in their narrow-minded conception of life, create many different types of humanitarian activities, but that the humanitarian activities inaugurated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are different. For logicians who want to accept only that which is proven through logic and argument, it is a fact that without logic and reason, there can be no question of accepting the absolute truth. Unfortunately, when such logicians take to this path without the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they remain on the platform of logic and argument and do not advance in spiritual life. However, if one is intelligent enough to apply his arguments and logic to the subtle understanding of the fundamental spiritual substance, he will be able to know that a poor fund of knowledge established on the basis of material logic cannot help one understand the absolute truth, which is beyond the reach of imperfect senses. The Mahabharata therefore says, Achintya kaloye bhava natang tarkenya joshayet. Mahabharata Bhishma Parva 5:22. How can that which is beyond the imagination or sensory speculation of mundane creatures be approached simply by logic? Logic and argument are very good in spiritual strength and always imperfect. Logic and argument are very poor in spiritual strength and always imperfect when applied to spiritual understanding. I'll repeat that again because I made a mistake in my first time through. Logic and argument are very poor in spiritual strength and always imperfect when applied to spiritual understanding. By putting forward mundane logic, one frequently comes to the wrong conclusion regarding the absolute truth. And as a result of such a conclusion, one may fall down to accept a body like that of a jackal. Despite all of this, those who are actually inquisitive to understand the philosophy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu through logic and argument are welcome. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami addresses them. Please put Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy to your crucial test, and if you are actually a logician, you will come to the right conclusion that there is no personality more merciful than Lord Chaitanya. Let the logicians compare all the results of other humanitarian work with the merciful activities of Lord Chaitanya. If their judgment is impartial, they will understand that no other humanitarian activities can surpass those of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Everyone is engaged in humanitarian activities on the basis of the body. But from the Bhagavad Gita 2:18 we understand, Antavanta ime deha nityas yokta sharirinaha. The material body is ultimately subject to destruction, whereas the spiritual soul is eternal. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's philanthropic activities are performed in connection with the eternal soul. However one tries to benefit the body, it will be destroyed, and one will have to accept another body according to his present activities. If one does not, therefore, understand this science of transmigration, but considers the body to be all in all, his intelligence is not very advanced. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, without neglecting the necessities of the body, imparted spiritual advancement to purify the existential condition of humanity. Therefore, if a logician makes his judgment impartially, he will surely find that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Maha Vadanyavatar, the most magnanimous incarnation. He is even more magnanimous than Lord Krishna himself. Lord Krishna demanded that one surrender unto him, but he did not distribute love of Godhead as magnanimously as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Therefore, Srila Rupa Goswami offers Lord Chaitanya his respectful obeisances with the words, Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate, Krishnaya, Krishna Chaitanya, Namne Gora Tvije, Namaha. Lord Krishna simply gave the Bhagavad Gita, by which one can understand Lord Krishna as he is. But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is also Krishna himself, gave people love of Krishna without discrimination. Bahu janma kari yadi shavana kirtana, tabo na poya Krishna padi premadana. If one is infested with the 10 offenses in chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, despite his endeavor to chant the holy name for many births, he will not get the love of Godhead that is the ultimate goal of this chanting. And we will stop here. And I will repeat this verse again tomorrow. It is so important. And the purport is so important. Hare Krishna. Shri Panchatattva ki jai. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. Shri Radha and Krishna ki jai. Gaur Premanandi. Hari Hari Bol. So, if anyone has any reflections or comments, something stuck in the mind from what we just heard, please be our guest. Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shri Vasari Gaur Bhaktavinda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Everyone's lying on the floor, rolling around. Tears are flowing from their eyes. They're stunned. They don't know what to say. But that's good. Making advancement in devotional service. Gopal Roy, first off the floor. Okay, go ahead, please.
Says, thank you for another wonderful reading, Maharaj. My heart vibrates with gratitude that you share your valuable time with us every evening. I thought it was an interesting statement by Srila Prabhupada in the purport to 7.164. Quote, ISKCON's members should not only construct temples in every town and village of the globe, but also distribute the books that have already been written, and further increase the number of books. Could this mean that Srila Prabhupada wanted future generations to write books and distribute these books to the public as well as Srila Prabhupada's books?
Yes, of course. But he wanted them. This was asked by devotees of Srila Prabhupada early on, before he got all his books out. But a lot of his books were out. Some of his disciples were staying before we built temples in India. Or maybe this was, anyway, whenever this happened, I don't remember exactly the year, but one of his disciples, I think sannyasi disciple, gave an order to the devotees that they should not read the books of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur or Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And Prabhupada said, who said this? And they said, well, they said you said that, Prabhupada. He said, I never said that. He said, we should read those books. And then he said, but first you should assimilate what I have given you. So that's a big statement, because of course he wants, just like now we have Bhagavatamrita, which was not translated were published before Srila Prabhupada left. It was after he left this was published. I know because I was involved in preparing the manuscript for printing and publishing. So Prabhupada definitely wanted us to write. And he said to us, you should all write, and you should all realize, this is how you realize by writing. Not all of us have to write books necessarily, but we write letters, we write articles, we write our realizations, and they're published in different mediums through our movement. So he definitely wanted books to be distributed, but he also wanted those books to be written on the basis of what he taught us. All the commentaries of the previous acharyas are essentialized in his purports, and you can see every time, especially Caitanya-caritämrta, we hear many times Srila Prabhupada say, according to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, or according to Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Bhashya, his commentary on Caitanya-caritämrta. So he's giving us the essence of everything. So, but at the same time, he wanted us to write, and he understood that in future generations, there will also be devotees who are writing books. Shivarama Maharaj is writing books. Different devotees are writing books. So, but still, we shouldn't. We should keep Srila Prabhupada's books in the center of our movement, because they are the foundation. Him being the empowered person, the person that took Krishna consciousness all around the world by himself practically. But he gave credit to his disciples also. He always said he could not do it by himself, and he gave credit to us. But we know, those of us who were there while he was doing this, that he was doing it, and we were just being empowered by him. That was mentioned in the beginning of this reading, Kripa Siddha. By the mercy of Prabhupada, devotees were doing things that were beyond their capacities. And even some of them, after he left, they couldn't continue it. But those who could continue, they should be considered very seriously as capable and empowered by Prabhupada to be able to write books and continue to distribute the Krishna consciousness movement as he wanted, as he desired. Just like he said in that purport that Gopal Roy just quoted and appreciated. So, but we have to assimilate Srila Prabhupada's books. If we don't, we won't be able to say clearly, with realization, what the teachings are and expand upon them. We can't jump over those books and over those instructions and go to other topics without that mercy. And now we're getting right into the crux of why that's true, because there have been so many personalities coming after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and after the Panchatattva, who by dint of sentimentality or family connections have faith in one or two but not the other members of the Panchatattva, or who have faith in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu but not faith in Sri Krishna, or vice versa, have faith in Radha Krishna but not in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So that may sound kind of basic to us, but there's very few personalities in the world who are in different spiritual organizations who have this clear understanding of the relationship between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Radha and Krishna, the Panchatattva and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Radha and Krishna. So, yes and no. Yes means Prabhupada wanted us to advance to the point where we could write transcendental literatures and spread Krishna consciousness the way he was spreading Krishna consciousness, because it's a big world. And we need millions of gurus. We need thousands of authors, actually, to take care of everyone in the world. But we have to be strong ourselves. Now, Prabhupada told us that in the future, and he never told us when, he never gave us any idea how long it would take for this to happen. But he said in the future, millions of people will come for shelter of you, meaning his disciples and grand disciples. And but you must be ready. That won't happen until you're ready, until you actually have assimilated what Srila Prabhupada gave us. Hare Krishna.
Something from Rati Manjari.
Hari Bol, Rati.
She says, sorry Guru Maharaj, I'm just rolling in now. No questions, I'm just trying to catch a few drops of nectar to enliven my parched heart.
Well, Rati, your loyalty to this process of hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord with the devotees is exemplary. And so we're just very happy when your name comes up on the screen and is read out to me. I become very happy. My heart dances. Hare Krishna. Welcome back. But you should read this out loud to yourself, what we just read, the last part of 7th chapter from verse 159, or listen to it again, because it's just extraordinary. It's really extraordinary. I wanted to bring up the point in reflection about how unless we chant without offense, we can chant for many lifetimes without getting love of Godhead. I was listening to Prabhupada today. He was answering the questions of a journal from India called Bhaban Journal. This was in 1976. I'll give you the exact dates so you can look it up in the database and perhaps either read, or perhaps if you have the audio files, you can listen. Very nice. It's 1976, June 29th and 30th and July 1st. And it's got an initial BJ after the numbers. 760629 BJ from New Vrindavan. And when Prabhupada was answering the questions of the Bhavan Journal, and they're quite deep because there's some learned people in India, and they were asking these same questions of different recognized authorities. And they were talking about love of God. And they were talking about the different religions. And Srila Prabhupada said, as he always said, if a person attains love of God, it doesn't make any difference what religion he is following. But we have to see, what is that love of God? What are the symptoms of that love of God? And one can, if you ask people who talk about love of God, who is God specifically, in detail, they don't know. They can't give you the form, they can't give you the personality, they can't give you the names, they can't give you the activities of the Lord in the spiritual world. So then Prabhupada said, therefore in Bhagavad Gita, in the 10th chapter, after Krishna explained the difference between matter and spirit, after he appealed to Arjuna in so many ways to convince him to do what he wanted him to do, even at the expense of so many dharmic principles, finally revealed to him who he was. And then he gave the 4 seed verses of the 10th canto of the Gita. And then what did Arjuna say? Param Dhamma Param Brahma Param Dhamma Pavitram Paravam Bhavan. He said, you are the Supreme Brahman. You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Pure. You are everything. And then he kept on preaching Krishna after that. And he revealed universal form to him. And he revealed all of his different potencies at the end of the 10th chapter also. And then he explained the modes of nature and how to live pure life. And went on and on. Even at 18th chapter, he described everything again in summary. And then he said, Sarva Dharman Pradicchaja, Mami Kam Charanam Praja. So Prabhupada was making the point that you can't really fully love someone unless you're fully surrendered. And you can't fully surrender to another person. You can only surrender to another person. You can't surrender to the sky. You can't love the sky in the same way that you can love another person. So it's important that we cultivate knowledge, but not just gyan. Bahunam janmanamante jnanavan mam prapadyate. We have to cultivate knowledge that leads us to the conclusion that Krishna is everything. Vasudevam Sarvamiti. And those persons are very, very rare. So I'm rambling a little bit, repeating some of the things I just heard also, but yes. Hare Krishna.
Rati says, thank you very much. You are so kind to me. I will hear your reading later. It is my daily link to sanity.
Thanks, Rati. Hare Krishna.
And there's something from Sudevi Dasi.
Hare Krishna, Sudevi Dasi.
She says, Hare Krishna Maharaj. Just want to say that now I have the books to hold in my hands and read along with you. When I opened the box yesterday, I was opening a real treasure, and am so happy to have them. A nice devotee paid half of the cost because I was saving to buy books. Thank you for reading each day. I will keep trying and trying to remember and repeat what I learn.
Thank you very much. That is the way. And even if you're not a scholar, even if you can't remember very much, if you get the mercy, as we just read, of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then you can know everything. So I'm going to stop here. Thank you so much, everyone, for taking this journey with us through the Caitanya-caritämrta cover to cover, every single word. And it'll be there on the internet, recorded, archived for future generations. Thank you so much. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. Sri Nityananda Prabhu ki jai. Sri Advaita Prabhu ki jai. Sri Vas Thakur and all the assembled devotees of Lord Chaitanya ki jai. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. We'll see you tomorrow night, same place, same station, just like a rock. Hare Krishna.